Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky here, and today I have Amanda Hill with me. Amanda, welcome.
Great. Excited to be here today, Michael.
Yeah, I'm excited for our conversation as well. So Amanda, you have 20 years of experience in brand building, advising billion-dollar brands, mid-sized companies, and even startups. You previously served as the North American Feminine Care Brand Director at Procter & Gamble, also known as P&G, where you were part of adding $100 million in sales. And in 2018, you started your consulting business, Female Forward, where you help CPG brands sell more effectively to women. I know you're also working not only in CPG, there's other areas of expertise there, but let's dive in because I think a great place to start would be your experience at P&G. I mean, when you kind of think back to those days, what are maybe some of the lessons that you learned at such a well-known brand and company that you still apply today, or that you kind of carried with you to this point?
Yeah. Good question, Michael. I think there are two things that I really learned at P&G. First is a brand building framework, how to build brands, understanding the importance of brand equity and strategy, and how strategy really informs executional choices. And so for me, really learning the thinking aspect of brand building and marketing was really important at P&G, not just executing.
Yeah.
And that's a skill that I've been able to keep and have been able to bring to other industries. It's a transferable skill.
Yeah.
I think the second thing that I really learned and developed at P&G was leadership. P&G really prides itself in developing leaders. And, as I grew in the company, I really got to practice and fine tune the ability to have a point of view, have rationale, listen to others, build, problem solve, and really try to do it all with a collaborative can do spirit. And so when I think about my great experience at P&G, it was definitely learning marketing fundamentals and also the softer skill of leadership.
Yeah, I want to dig into that in a few minutes here because I think, when people often kind of consider these large brands and the strategies that they use and the different kind of vernacular and so forth, oftentimes they don't feel it's really kind of appropriate or relevant to smaller businesses. And so I want to speak to you in a few minutes about kind of what you've taken from that and maybe how you've embedded or embraced some of those larger company practices for or in your consulting business. But before we get there, 2018, you started your own consulting business, Female Forward. Why? What was the kind of the impetus, the reason for you to leave the corporate world, to leave such a well-known and respected brand by many, to start your own thing?
Yeah, great question. My time at P&G was wonderful, and I was enjoying myself there. I was doing well there. But admittedly, Michael, I had been having a nagging feeling inside that I there was more for me to do,
Mm,
both professionally and personally, quite frankly. I've always been one who has loved learning about other companies and industries. I would love it when I was at P&G and G and they would bring external speakers in and I'd get to see and experience other business challenges. And so I was really intrigued by other brands and businesses that had a different model or worked in a different industry, and had different challenges. So that was one of the reasons why, I started thinking, is there a next chapter for me that leverages my skills from P&G, but also really lets me really explore more business and brand problems that I can help perhaps solve. And then certainly personally, I have two children, and I really just was also really savoring the time that I had with them. And so, I really wanted a lifestyle where I would have more time for them, more time for myself, exercising and some of my own joys. And, when I combine kind of the servant leadership mentality that I had, my passion for learning new industries, and then my personal desire to have a different lifestyle, that's what really led me to consulting. And honestly, I I haven't looked back. I could never go back. I really have enjoyed the blend of those three things as a consultant.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such an honor watching the development of your business over the years and since we've known each other and worked together. But I think what you're sharing resonates with so many people out there, who really want to realize their potential, want to have more freedom, more time, and so it is a natural transition. What surprised you most, or what challenged you the most when you made the leap from corporate to consulting? When you kind of think back about those early few months or even first year, what was the biggest surprise for you, or what do you remember as being the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah. Oh boy. I would say, Michael, for me, when I look back at that time, the biggest challenge was getting comfortable with discomfort, right?
Mm,
I've been working at the same company for nearly 20 years, doing the same type of work. I knew a lot of the people, and I don't think I realized how comfortable I was. And so when I ventured out, I went from a company of 100,000 to a company of one.
yeah.
I had to get really comfortable with being outside my comfort zone. So whether that was getting comfortable with a different income stream, whether that was getting comfortable reaching out to new people in a new network, whether it was getting comfortable with not knowing the answers, right? I was starting in a business model that I'd never experienced before. And that's really served me well. I really had to change my mindset,
Mm,
from what do I have to lose, or to what do I have to lose.
right.
And my father had a great quote, which I really held on to during that time, which is, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." And I remember in those moments of discomfort when I might have been scared to pick up the phone and call someone, or to try, a marketing technique for my business, I just kept coming back to that quote. And, over time, it really paid off. But that was for me the toughest challenge, was having to face my own discomfort and just walk right into it and take action.
And any advice? I mean, that's a great quote, one I've heard before, and I certainly agree with. It's so valuable, right? To just recognize that, yeah, if you don't try, you're not going to know, right? And you'll have regrets. Anything else that you've done or that's helped you when you're kind of confronting something that you should do, but there's hesitation because it's uncomfortable, or maybe you try something and it doesn't work out, and you start having those thoughts creep in, like, am I really cut out to do this, or should I change something? What's been kind of most helpful for you through that process as you've faced that discomfort? Because that is something that every consultant faces at one time or another. Some people are more open in admitting it than others, but we all face it. So yeah, what else have you found? What other kind of tools do you have in your tool belt for dealing with that?
Yeah. I think another thing that's really helped me is, having a network of other consultants who have said, "Gosh, I tried this and it worked." And, that's given me a lot of confidence. So, certainly through the consulting success community, through other former P&G people that I know that are consultants, when they share with me what's worked for them, even if it's uncomfortable for me, that has really helped me move forward and get over that fear. So, one of the lessons is really surrounding yourself with people who have walked down that path ahead of you, because they also help reduce that fear factor, that a rookie like me, experienced.
Right. I mean, I think it's even more important right now as we're recording, where in many places around the world, it's still very hard to go back to the networking events or to the other places, right? So now many of us are more spending a lot more of our time online, and so tapping into that community and having people around you to support you or just to ask questions and get answers is really critical. Um, in 2019, you joined our Clarity Coaching Program, Amanda, and I think one lesson that you've implemented, and I think you've seen really great results with, and we were talking about this earlier, is this idea of hiring and delegating and partnering. Just kind of walk us through that in your business specifically. What did things look like before you kind of start to embrace that mindset?
Yes. So, I was experiencing great success, which was wonderful with consulting. And at that time, I was a one woman show. And I started realizing that I had a lot of good opportunities that I wanted to say yes to, but I just didn't personally have the bandwidth to take on all of that work. And so that was kind of the first seed that was planted in my head that, I'm going to need to figure out a different solution for growing my business than just relying upon myself. The second seed that led to some changes is I also started realizing there was really critical work that I needed to do to grow my business, but it was work that I didn't really enjoy, such as developing content, such as getting my website up and running, such as, getting my CRM program up and running. And, Michael, you helped coach me and said, Amanda, hire people to help you with this. And you really reframed my thinking around the return on that investment. And so the combination of those two things of really starting to feel stretched with my workload combined with knowing there were tasks I needed to do to grow my business that I wasn't that enthusiastic about really led me to enthusiastically jump in to hiring support and partners. So
Right.
I hired people to do the projects that I didn't enjoy doing on my business, such as CRM setup and website design. And then I also have found some other partners that I bring in, that I subcontract that help me with strategic projects. And that just frees me up to be able to say yes to the work that I really want to do, but also at the same time delivering high quality results as well.
Are you looking back at maybe where your mindset was regarding hiring and delegating and partnering with others before you made that leap? What beliefs did you have, or what do you feel maybe held you back from starting that sooner? Is there anything that you now see in hindsight?
I mean, I think the most common one, and I certainly experienced this, is a financial one. Am I going to make as much money if I'm now having to pay people to help me? And quite frankly, and again, Michael, you helped really change my mindset on this, which is the answer is you. This is the way to grow your business. It does not minimize your financial outcomes, quite frankly, and the only way to grow is by bringing in people who can help support you in the mission. And so your concept around you know how much you would pay a contractor versus if you spent that same hour you know building your business with potential clients, just that reframing was huge for me, and it helped me really let go of the financial restriction that I was thinking about and really helped free me up to dive right in.
And then now, if you compare to where you are today, kind of what the business is like, what changes have you seen? What kind of impact has it had, both from a business perspective, but also from a personal lifestyle perspective for you?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely paid off for me. In fact, now there are very few projects that I do all by myself, quite frankly. But I think a couple things. One is professionally. In fact, I was just on a call today with a client where I had brought in a couple partners to help me and to share the load and to also bring really valuable perspective. And he had such great things to say as he had shared the work we had done with him up to the CEO, and the CEO had great things to say about the work. And so it validated to me that when you bring in other people, you get a better outcome, quite frankly, than when you're by yourself. And so that's one thing I've experienced. And sure enough, I've got a second project now lined up with that same client because the quality of the work, because of this small team that I brought in, exceeded their expectations. So professionally, it is really delighting customers. Personally, it's enabled me to, not have to work at night, not have to work on the weekends, have a little bit of breathing room in the day, versus, running back and forth to client meetings and trying to squeeze in the work. And it's also freeing up some time for me to think about my own business as well, in addition to my clients'
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been it's been beneficial both personally and professionally.
Definitely. I think that's, an area that a lot of people miss when they consider this idea of delegating or hiring or building a team, whether contractors or full-time people, is the first thought is around the financials, right? And, I'm spending money to get somebody to do something, shouldn't I just do it myself? But one part that people also don't really think about is that when you're making that investment, again, an investment, not an expense, you're buying back your time, right? And for all of us, you'll never hear anybody on their deathbed going, "Oh, I wish I had more money," right? So it's always about, I wish I had more time. I wish I spent, more time with these people, with my loved ones, did these things, challenge myself, right? Living without regrets. And so not only is it actually a great way to grow your business, but you actually do free up a lot more of your own time, which allows you to spend more time on the right areas of the business or more time on the personal side and with family and so forth. The other thing I just wanted to mention, just because I think it's an important topic that a lot of people do face, is when you think about building a team, what I've seen with a lot of people who have come from the corporate world, like yourself, Amanda, is initially there's a hesitation to this idea of, oh, I don't really want to manage people. Like I was doing that in the corporate world. That's one of the reasons I left. I was tired of all the, tired of the politics and all this kind of stuff, bureaucracy. I just want to do my thing and have the freedom. And that typically lasts for a little while, but inevitably for those who really do want to grow, and it's not necessarily right for everybody, but for a lot of people, the initial mindset is, yeah, I don't want to add more people because that means more management, more work. And that's the whole reason why I made a shift. But I think what you've seen and many others who have really, kind of embraced this new mindset is that when you are fully in control, when you call the shots, you get to bring on the right people. You can bring in contractors, freelancers, full-time people, partners. And so you really get to control and structure a team just in the way that you want it and need it. And so you can do it in a very profitable way. You can do it in a very kind of slow step, moving forward manner. And so doing that really gives you a lot of pleasure, because not only can you surround yourself with other great people, not only are you actually then helping other people with their livelihoods and supporting them and their families. So there's that whole trickle on effect of kind of, building the economy, but then you get the business benefits and the personal benefits. So I think it is a really great path for people to explore. And so hopefully for any of you right now, listening and so forth, that just consider how you might be able to apply some of it to your business. But let's come back, because one thing, Amanda, that I've been consistently impressed with, as we've been working together, is how well you implement and take action, right? So some people will hear ideas and concepts and they'll just kind of think about them and maybe test a little bit here and there, but they don't really immerse themselves into it. And I know for many people, 2020 was a very challenging year to be in business, but your business grew. And so what are some of the lessons or actions that you've taken that you think have made the biggest difference over the last year or so in your business?
Good question. Yeah, I definitely am. I'm naturally an action-oriented person, so I like to just make it happen. I have tried many things this past year, and the pandemic created space for me to try quite a bit as it related to content. Getting comfortable with video content, getting comfortable developing tools that can help people at large. And so those are a few things that, quite frankly, I really put into high gear during the pandemic time period. And then I've maintained that level. Again, I brought someone in to help me so that I can maintain that level. But really consistent stream of valuable content, I am seeing the dividends. I'm getting calls from people saying, Amanda, I thought of you. Again, just last week I had that happen. And I really think it's a function of being top of mind with potential clients through content. And so that really has been, for me, it's been a huge help to my business, but it's also been a huge relief to bring in someone to help me do that at the same time. The other change that I've really made to my business is carving out time to focus on my business. And as Michael, I was not doing that. And you rightfully pointed out that that is something I needed to implement. And so I now have designated time during the week where I spend time thinking about who do I need to recontact? What are some capabilities that I need to create within my business? Who are there people that I need to hire and bring on? And I dedicate that time to building my business. I was not doing that before. I was too caught up in delivering client work 100% of the time. And so those are two things that I've done in the past year that I think have really helped me advance my business and also at the same time without sacrificing my personal life.
Right. That's fantastic. So let's come back to the kind of the big secret from big business, right? You were working in the corporate world. You had, you know, big budgets, big opportunities, lots of, you know, time to see and test different things. But again, many small business owners, you know, consulting firm owners, even solo independent consultants, look at what big businesses are doing and sometimes just dismiss it because they believe it's not going to be relevant for what they're doing. Other times I see people trying to emulate what big business is doing, but it's just so off target because they're trying to accomplish something that is not going to necessarily work for their business. When you again kind of think about all the best practices and lessons that you've learned, even strategies from P&G and from working with some very large clients over the years now, what are you seeing, or what do you kind of take from that that you think is applicable to the consultant who's listening to this right now, who either is an independent consultant or maybe a small firm owner? What kind of, and I think specifically or maybe especially around this idea of brand building, like you talk about brand equity and about how to actually go about building a brand, but anything from that marketing or branding perspective that you think is a big opportunity, or something that you think maybe many small business owners don't really use or implement very well, and that could be an opportunity for them.
Yeah. I think these are related, but I think there's a couple things. One is really understanding your target audience. Whether you're a billion-dollar brand or whether you are a solopreneur, that is extremely critical. And really intimately understanding their needs, their desires, their unmet needs, who the competition is in your target audience's mind, is really important inputs. And so I think oftentimes what I see is sometimes people get really excited by the latest digital tool or the latest sponsorship, and you know, they might be missing what's really relevant for their target audience. And so that's a skill that we used in big business that I think is applicable no matter the size of your company. And that really leads to the second thing, which is when you understand your consumer, you develop a strategy or choices to win with them. And oftentimes, what I see in smaller companies is they think they've got to be all things to all people, or they have to do everything. And the fact is, in a smaller company, you have less resources, so you have to be even more choiceful. You actually have to do the opposite.
Right.
But in order to inform those priorities or choices, you have to understand your target audience. And that target audience understanding is what helps really shine a light on what are the most critical areas you should invest in, or what type of communication you should have for your business. So they're related to me. But I think those tenets are true no matter if you're a one person show, a one woman show like I am, or whether you are a billion-dollar business, is understanding your target audience and using that insight to set priorities or choices
Yeah.
for your investments.
Love it. I mean, that's very, very powerful because, you know, we continue to see, you know, this idea and application of the 80-20 kind of principle, right? It's all about focus. And you're so correct that when you're a smaller business, right? If it's one person or five people or 10, 15, you know, employees, you're still a very small business. And so you don't have a lot of resources. And probably your most valuable kind of asset that you have the least of is time. And so, you know, really getting clear on where do you dedicate that time. And if you think about, if you try and spread yourself or spread your different offerings or to different types of clients, it only means you can give a certain smaller percentage into any one market or any one idea. And there's a lot more complexity to serve all these different people or different offerings. And all of that just takes away, you know, your ability to really make an impact. So I think those are great points. Now, I want you to put on your kind of fortune teller hat here for a moment, Amanda. From a marketing, branding kind of perspective, if you cast your mind into the future a little bit, so down the road, are there any trends or any opportunities or any changes that you think, just if you were to make a kind of a prediction, a guess into the future, anything that you think the consultant right now listening to this should think about or might have an opportunity in planning for when it comes to marketing and branding, into 2022, 2023, and the future from there?
Yeah, great question. I think we're going to see. I think we're already seeing a shift, quite frankly, in the past where a lot of businesses and brands they would tout their tangible benefits, right? My product works faster, my product works better. And I think as a result of the pandemic, what people want even before how your product performs is, are you a good service? Is your customer service? Are you gonna answer the phone? Are you gonna help me when I have an issue? Are you going to help me assemble this? Are you going to just be available for Q&A? And so that's the shift that I think, including for consultants. Oftentimes
Yeah.
we think about our work as a project. We deliver a project, and how do we? And Michael and you and I were just talking about this, how do we also think about ongoing advising for businesses and companies as an example, because I think people are yearning for more customer service so they can get to the end result better and faster.
Yeah.
And so I think there's going to be a real shift from tangible deliverables to more intangible deliverables. And I think that's true for consultants and it's true for traditional brands as well.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, and actually really resonates with me because I've had a couple of experiences recently where I've called up, for example, one online brokerage, and you're put into a queue. It's like hundreds of people, so you end up hanging up, and it's happened in a few different situations, and it really does kind of make me think when I compare, for example, an online brokerage that I use to then kind of another investment firm that I work with, where I can pick up the phone and call and get one of the head people right away. It's just, even though you might pay a bit of a higher fee on one side, it's like, well, it's worth paying for that because you have access. And I think that principle of what you're introducing, I never thought about in terms of that is like the way that the future is going. But I love that. I think that's really, really powerful. And I do believe that every consultant, every firm could benefit from looking at how do you make yourself more accessible, able to provide more strategic insight, support, all of that to really be there for your clients. So that's great. Amanda, you are obviously, as you said, you're an action taker, a high performer, right? You love getting things done. What are you doing kind of from whether it's a habit, a routine, like what keeps you sharp and focused and just performing at those levels? Anything you do from a routine, reading, just anything that, is part of kind of your DNA or who you are that you think others might be able to also learn from?
Yeah, it's a great question because when you go from a huge company where there's a lot of established training and speakers, to being on your own, you really have to be proactive at personally developing yourself. I do quite a few things, Michael. Obviously, I'm a member of the consulting success community, and that helps keep me sharp. I also am a member of the local marketing association as well, so that I can really stay in touch with the marketing trends and shifts that are happening. I also take a lot of networking calls with people that are in different industries. I always say yes to those, quite frankly, because I learn through those conversations and those people. I like to read. I just signed up for the digital version of the Harvard Business Review as well because I'm really fascinated with case studies. So I want to stay in touch with those. So those are a few of the sources that help me stay in touch with the industry, quite frankly, because being a solopreneur, the risk is you lose touch. And so I have had to be more deliberate in creating those connections and carving out time so that I can stay in touch with the industry.
That's fantastic. Amanda, I want to first of all thank you so much for coming on here to the Consulting Success podcast today. But even more importantly, where can people go to learn more about you, to see your content, what you put out? tell us where the best places for people to go.
Sure. Well, I would love to connect with, all of the listeners via LinkedIn. I'm just Amanda Hill on LinkedIn. Or you can also learn more about the work that I do at femaleforward.net.
Wonderful. Amanda, thank you again so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.